I'm Kelsey Litchfield, and this is the Field Advisor Podcast, where I talk with local experts to unpack the latest agronomy information and research, giving you the knowledge to make informed decisions out in the field. Thanks for tuning in to the Field Advisor Podcast. Welcome back to our Illinois Soy Envoys. I have Mike Wilson from the Wabash. I always get that wrong.
Wabash.
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 It must be the northerner in me, Mike.
Oh, I get that all the time, and especially Easterners. You get out on Chesapeake Bay, and then they butcher it, but that's okay. That's okay.
I will admit that I butcher it every time. But Mike, we're happy to have you here down in southeastern Illinois. Tori Colburn, northern Illinois, working for American Farmland Trust. Haley Brokate, who's the key account manager for Sunrise FS, no longer Illini FS, but Sunrise FS out of Champaign. And then Byron Hendrix, who has a new job, senior sales agronomist with the Stepan company. So welcome all. Byron, you are in Henry County. Let's first start with you. Tell us the harvest progression in your area and what yields you're hearing from the field.
Yeah, I think harvest is around 75% is kind of the best guess. Both crops roughly might be 80%, 70% one, but there's definitely some beans out there left to go. The rainfall kind of we did get a little rain, which was great. Some heavier in areas than others, but then all of a sudden you go, not even 30 more minutes south of where it rained heavy, you get nothing. We were at a cross-country race on Saturday afternoon early in Peoria, and the dust was flying at Detweiler Park where they run the state cross-country race. It just Peoria needs rain. There's just been nothing there of significance anyway. But yeah, and then some corn, later planted corn, just waiting to get out. People don't want to dry it down, which makes sense. And elevators are starting to fill up. There's some significant volume in some of these elevators now, which I haven't seen any piles yet, but I haven't been further south, like toward where we go deer hunting near Pike County. We usually see in Beardstown, we usually see quite a few piles that direction, but have not seen any of those yet. So it must mean we still have some room to go, which is good. Some tillage activities going on in some really good ground, I'd call it. That's been able to get tilled up and looks good. Amazingly doesn't look as dry as what we have been. It still looks nice and black, and it turns over nice, and you smell it and everything. It's good, but so I think some of that activity will start going. And we mentioned earlier on before we start recording, the ammonia activities should start going here with temperature going down. You would think in the next 7 days or so is just a good guess.
Mm-hmm. What about yields? Are they all over the place? I know we were all talking that Western Illinois was looking to be the breadbasket this growing season. How did that all turn out in your area?
Yeah, from what understandably, so we've heard a lot of people. You can find a lot of plot data, but there's been a lot of percentages thrown out. It's very difficult to pin down. This was my average yield, or this is my average yield, but you are kind of finding some people talk about because of crop insurance, because of what payments potentially are out there for ARC, PLC, etc. Down around that 20% or so, 20% off of last year, but still really good. So 20% off of 260 or 280. Do the math. It's still really good corn for sure, but it's definitely not last year. But I mean, people are pretty happy with what especially if you were able to get planted earlier. Some of that stuff was better. But yeah, and soybeans wise, had good pod counts, good soybeans. I think about as good as last year. Maybe not quite as good, but pretty. I would say maybe flat is a key. That'd be, I guess, the best word I could explain. Flat averages to last year. So yeah, I really don't think we got smacked too bad by anything soybean significance. Corn was definitely the big one for sure, but still really good crop. Yeah,
would have been nice to get some of those August rains that we missed.
That would have helped. Grain fill was the biggest thing. I think test weight going from 58 to 56 or 56 to 54. Just 2 pounds of difference makes a lot of difference in the field, and that's, I think, the grain fill period nailed us there in August.
Mm-hmm. Tori, let's head over to you in the LaSalle County area. Again, your harvest observations and any yield reports from your area.
Yeah, so yield wise, I think most guys were actually pretty impressed with some of the yields we got in this area. We did catch a few of those rains that I think helped our grain fill a little bit. I've heard corn yields anywhere from 240 to 270 bushel. There's been some that fell off too. So but I think that has more to do with the soil type. Even in some of the good fields that I know is really good ground, I would walk through some of those spots and where the soil would lighten up a little bit. We even found, half an acre here and there where ears were pretty blank, short, stubby ears that just didn't pollinate very well, didn't fill out. So that's brought some of the averages down a little bit here and there. But on the bean side, I did, as leaf drop started, I did start finding more and more 4-bean pods, which gave me a little bit more optimism as far as our bean yields in the area. And from what I've heard, that sort of has panned out a little bit too. So bean yields anywhere from that 70 to upper 80s in this area. So I think most farmers are pretty pleased. One thing that I have noticed, because we've had such a warm fall, especially when those early bean fields came out and then they did finally get a rain after harvest, how much of that bean crop actually got left in the field, just from some shatter loss at the head. And they've turned green. They look like they're cover crop fields. And I've had farmers call me and ask, does that count as a cover crop, right? So
does it?
Yeah, no, unfortunately it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, agronomically, sure, there's a living root out there, but nope, doesn't count as a cover crop. But yeah, and some of those beans now are even putting on their first trifoliates. So yeah, they have really greened up quite well. We are seeing some tillage activity in this area, and actually over the last several days, I was further south, kind of down in Haley's part of the world. And one thing that I noticed being down there is the difference in how some of that ground is working up down there, where they've had kind of more aggressive tillage. They're pulling up very large clods, very large balls of soil, whereas up here it's kind of worked up much more mellow. So I guess that's just a difference in the soil moisture that we've had here versus down in her part of the world where the drought has been worse. So gives me a little bit of concern for down there going through. We're going to need some freezing and thawing to sort of break up some of those larger clods, and then we'll see what spring brings, but maybe they'll need an extra pass or two to get that mellowed out in the spring.
What about cover crop planting? How's that going?
It's going fairly well. A lot of I'm pretty impressed because we've had the warm fall. A lot of the stuff that did get flown on early, like Labor Day, a lot of those winter kill species have actually done very well. It took them a little while to get going, but once they got some moisture in this bean stubble, they really did start to take off. And we've got oats and radishes out in some of these fields now that are ankle high or a little more. And it worked out that they weren't that tall at harvest, so we didn't have to deal with any extra material coming into the combine. So farmers were pleased with that, and it's the most impressive winter kill cover crop I've seen in several years. And we're kind of at the point now where most of the cover crop species that we're seeing go out now, we're down to kind of our cool season grasses and some of those more hardy broadleaf species now. So as harvest is wrapping up, we're starting to see more and more of the cereal rye go out. I know a few guys that are going to get started in the next several days as they get their corn done. They're going to start putting cereal rye out in corn stalks. So and we did catch some of those rains here the last several days, and I think I had a half inch, 7/10, something like that here at home. And I know down in Haley's part of the world, they were very, very happy to get the rain that they got. I heard anywhere from 1.5 inches to 3 inches, depending on where you were. So, and that was right in the heart of that D3 drought zone. So,
yeah,
very, very thankful to see that.
Let's go over to you, Haley, because I was reading an article yesterday. I believe it was in Farm Week. The WCIA chief meteorologist in Champaign, Kevin Lighty, he said recently estimated it would take 5 to 8 inches of rain in the next 30 days to end drought conditions in parts of eastern Illinois. So I just want our audience to understand there is drought throughout the state, but it's more extreme in your part of the world.
Yeah, spot on, and exactly what Tori was hitting on. We were lucky enough over this past weekend to finally catch a rain. Most of the guys, especially right through basically Mahomet, Champaign, into East Central, up against the state line, basically were able to catch pretty much average, I would say, right around an inch to an inch and a half was what I was hearing. I know there's parts farther south that caught a little bit more in that. So thankful, was very glad to see it. It was a nice steady rain that came through. I will say it did not hold up much farming progress as far as that goes. Guys were right back at it. Saw some guys working ground on late Sunday and then even into Monday. So talked to a few guys yesterday as far as, that were out there working, ripping ground, and they were saying, it's still just as dry as what it was before. Couldn't even hardly tell as far as moisture. So I think that just kind of hits on how dry we are and spot on to that WCIA, what you were just hitting on, Kelsey, as far as how far behind we are on rainfall totals. I would say as far as harvest goes, though, even with how dry we were, we missed a lot of those August, even July rains. Most of the yields coming out have been, guys have been very pleasantly surprised, I would say. I think it was going to be a lot worse going into it. I felt like it was going to be a lot worse, especially on the soybean side, just not knowing, because we all say August rains make beans as far as that goes. So, and most of those bean averages, I would say, don't get me wrong, there were some beans that were down in the 50s, but most of them have been in that 60 to 80 bushel range. So very glad to see that. And then as far as corn goes, corn, I would say, has been kind of all over the place too, as far as yields go. But I would say a lot of it's probably in that 220, 230. I've heard some as high as 270, and then lows in, that high 190, 100, right at 200 too. I think moisture, especially right now, as far as what their crops testing, corn's been down in like 13%, which is, that's kind of drastic as far as where we've been in past years. And then same with beans. And as far as percentage of where we're sitting at, as far as harvest progress, I would say probably beans, we're probably sitting in the upper 80%. We're pretty much wrapped up with soybean harvest, and then corn, we're probably sitting at 75%. I know there's a few guys that wrapped up end of last week, and then, you can see progress is we have quite a bit of crop out around here.
A lot of corn this year that a lot more acres of corn in Illinois, so I guess that's no surprise that still wrapping up corn. And on my drive to Bloomington back and forth yesterday, I saw more cornfields still out than bean fields. A couple weeks ago, I saw pumpkin harvest outside of Morton, obviously the pumpkin capital, and I was just amazed of how harvest progress is. But it is October 21st now when we're recording this, so looking to wrap up soon. I want to head to Mike down in southeastern Illinois. Mike, what a season it's been for Southern Illinois farmers. You probably want to have some memory loss of this past spring, but it's I don't even know the word for it, Mike, for what Southern Illinois has experienced this year. I don't know if you have a word for it.
I do, but I can't say it on the podcast. But listening to what everyone else has got to say, I had to write a couple things down. Evansville, Indiana, that's our main media hub here in the tri-state, because we do business in 10 counties in Illinois, 5 counties in Indiana, and 2 counties in Kentucky. And Evansville, Indiana is 14 inch, as of this weekend, was right around 14 inches of total moisture or precipitation above normal. we have not had a significant rain in Wabash County since June. So that just shows you how crazy this season has been. My neighbor, they cut the beans around my house. There's about 100 acres around my house. And they cut those beans 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. And they were right at 60 bushel beans. And it did not rain the entire month at all. Nothing. The entire month of August. And I told him, Kevin, you were 2 inches of rain from 80 bushel beans. I mean, they look great. But what we found is everyone down here is getting docked on splits on soybeans. But they're not splits. They're underdeveloped beans. They're tiny little beans or flat beans that are going through the grader at the elevator, and they get counted as splits. I had one farmer that absolutely chewed his guy out that cuts beans. You need to set that combine better. Why are you splitting them? He said, I ain't splitting them. They're too dang little to split, but they're going through the through the grader, and they're getting counted as splits. So there's some hidden things, that are happening. One thing I just got a harvest report on one of our Wayne County corn plots planted May 27th. This just came in on my phone. The plot average was 145 bushel. The low was 119 and the high was 154. 13.8% average moisture for the entire plot. We're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of sub 150 bushel corn. We're also seeing some 200, 210, 230 bushel corn, but that's almost all under irrigation. Not all of it, but it's almost all under irrigation. And right here in our corridor along the river, in our trade area from the Crawford County line all the way down to the Ohio River at Shawneetown, there's around 1,000 irrigation systems on our side of the river. So it's a pretty substantial, number of acres that are irrigated. So we're dealing with that. We're going to have a terrible fall leaf viewing season because they're just falling off. They're just going from green to brown or black and falling off, which is good for me. The sooner those leaves get off, the sooner I can clean my yard up and start putting up Christmas decorations. So I'm moving on to the next thing. I have bought 30 new Christmas displays in the last 3 weeks. My wife will not watch this podcast. She won't see it, so I can talk about it. But we're excited. The grandsons and son-in-laws and I and daughters are all excited to start putting up Christmas decorations the 1st of November. So we have to start then to be ready by Thanksgiving because our display is like an acre and a half, about 1 million lights and 150 characters. So yeah,
I think we need a field trip.
It's kind of a thing, but if you see a green glow in southeastern Illinois, that's what's going on. But harvest progress here in Wabash County, I'm going to say soybeans are 99% done. Corn is about 85 to 90% done. You go north 20 miles and get up into the northern 4 tiers of counties for us, Lawrence, Richland, Jasper, and Crawford. We're probably more like 60%. Beans up there that have not started dropping leaves yet. They're turning yellow, but we're still, and they're about boot top high, a lot of them. I can go 15 minutes west of here over in the West Salem area. We got beans that are starting to turn and the leaves are falling off, and I'm not sure that the reel will pick them up. They were planted in July, and I'm not sure the reel will pick them up. Farther south, from Highway 15 south, progress is really good, and it's just wherever we got rain. We've had in the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 rains come through, and we've had 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches in each one of those rains. Western Kentucky got up to 4.5 inches of rain, and down in the Shawneetown area in Illinois, Posey County in Indiana, and some of Vanderburgh, 4.5 inches of rain. North of us, like up toward where we kind of butt up with Sunrise now. I want to say Illini. I've been saying Illini for 30 years, but up in Haley's area, then we're, it's been a little less rain than what we've had farther south. But this last one that came through this weekend, you guys got, I watched it. You guys got more rain up on the north end, up your way, Haley, than what we got. So, we had about 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 there at the house, and I was out Sunday morning. I'm also a road commissioner. So I got out Sunday morning, and I knew it was going to dry out fast. So I drug roads Sunday morning, starting at about 6 and got done by noon. So everyone had a smooth drive home from church.
There you go.
So
that's great.
But I'm upbeat for 2026.
Yes.
I wrote the blog this week. I'm done with 25. I'm not going to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. It's time to move on.
Yes, definitely. One thing I do want to bring up to you for, there might be nothing there, but one of the big headlines from the summer was the tassel wrap. Did anyone see any issues from that, yield hits, or any more talk of it? I'm bringing it up again.
I saw it at the time during pollination. It was pretty hybrid specific. And it was even variable within the hybrid. It kind of depended on where it was in the field, in my observation. And you could definitely tell that it affected how well some ears pollinated. After hearing what the yields were, I'm not sure how much effect it really had, but it was definitely something that it was observable at the time if you knew what you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see any of it. We had enough other stuff going on. It wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask because, at that time, and I know when I talked to Stephanie about it, she goes, well, you'll just have to see this come fall when the harvest goes through, or when the combine goes through, of how much it impacted those fields. So that I just wanted to get that question in. Sounds like not much, or if anything, and maybe others had a bigger impact. I'd be curious at anyone listening if you had quite the yield hit from the tassel wrap. Feel free to message us. But on another note, fall burn down. Do a quick around the table. Any recommendations or any cautionary mentions? I know for us here in Knox County, close to Byron, it's getting windy. It seems like we haven't had to deal with wind until right now. So I know that that could maybe be of concern, but I'm just curious. Haley, I'll start with you. Any fall burn down recommendations?
It's definitely been a topic of discussion here this last week. I would say the biggest thing to remember when we're starting to make those is definitely, I think guys get hung up on the burn down side of things, just running like a 2,4-D dicamba mix. But don't forget about adding in a residual and the longevity of getting that through, keeping it clean into your spring planting time frame. So that's one thing that I would definitely make sure guys are thinking through. There's numerous products on the market when you start talking about residual in that fall burn down application.
Yeah, well said, Haley. Just watch your potential crop rotation on those. Right, we had some I won't say issues, but some burn down that went on that had to stay in the soybean crop, for example, or corn crop, for example, rather than having flexibility. I would say flexibility would be key. Looking at some of the residuals out there. So if you need to switch, you can in the spring.
Tori, is there any concern of the herbicide carryover with the cover crops? I know you talked about that at one point this season.
Yeah, there's some concern, and obviously we had a dry season, so especially in the drier parts of the state, there is some concern that there would be some carryover from our in-season applications. As far as the fall burn downs, generally speaking, fall burn downs and cover crops don't play well together. So we just need to be, conscious of that. And I have spoken to a few farmers who they're making some changes in their cover crop decisions, or they're planting cover crops to give themselves flexibility because of where bean prices are right now. They say, well, we may weight heavier to corn next year. So all of those things sort of interact, as whether it's your cover crop species selections, or whether it's your fall burn down herbicide applications. All of those sorts of things play into what's going to happen next spring. But I haven't heard any big issues yet at this point with carryover from in-season applications. Doesn't mean we won't see those sorts of things come to fruition, but right now I haven't seen anything significant.
We started burn down this week. We're kicking up 30 plus mile an hour winds today and the rest of the week till Friday. So they're getting out at daylight, while the wind's still down, and trying to get, we don't have a lot of acres. I think they said they had like 500 acres on the books here at this location today. I mean, and 250 of it's in one field. So it won't take them long to knock that out. But we got to be cognizant of that. And I agree with Haley. We got to look at glyphosate, and then whatever phenoxy you're going to throw in there. We're running a lot of 2,4-D dicamba mix. The dicamba gives us about 3 weeks of residual at the rate we're using, and then whatever residual we need to throw in. Again, flexibility is going to be key this year. We've got more cover crops. Tori, you're going to love this. We got more cover crops going out this fall than we've had in a while, maybe ever. We did a lot of cover crop seeding with the drone, splitting some fields. That's a really cool thing about this as applied data. You apply it with a drone, and then you can see where you need to go back in if you're going to spread it with one of our pieces of equipment, or if they're going to drill it or whatever. They got the as applied data. They know where to start. Flags. I never did like putting flags up, because then you had to worry about go take them down and all that. And now we don't even need a flag. We do this all digitally, which is pretty cool. And I will surprise you all. I may be the oldest one on here, but I do carry a CCA Precision Ag certification. So I know a little bit about this technology. I just like to play dumb, because that way no one expects anything. But the technology that we've got today to increase our ability to get more cover crops out there is just unbelievable. And we're trying to take advantage of it. And we've spread a lot of partial fields with the drone this year to see how it turns out. And then we haven't hardly had any rain to germinate the seed. So we're dealing with that. But, this past year, our best weed control as a whole was either in fields with a cereal rye cover crop or with a fall application of burn down. In soybeans, corn's kind of iffy, but in soybeans, our best season-long field weed control started out with a clean field, whether that was using a cereal rye cover crop or a fall herbicide application, and really can't tell any difference in the two. So I'm telling you, I'm going out on a limb here. I really think cereal rye is an excellent choice for cover crops, because it not only holds the soil where we need it to be, it also maintains nutrients. And that's another thing. How much ammonia, how much nitrogen, if we got out there residual in these cornfields, and we're going to be able to tell in the cover crop, because we're going to have every 30 inches, we're going to have a green streak when we finally get some rain. And we've seen it before, but if we've got the cover crop there to tie that nitrogen up, then that's something we're not going to lose to the environment. So there's a lot of benefits to a cover crop. There, Tori, I did your whole commercial for you.
You did, Mike. Yeah,
but I really believe it. I think that's it's something we need to be talking about, because where you're growing 250, 270 bushel corn, hopefully you're using up all the nitrogen they applied. Hopefully there wasn't that much, but down here that's an issue for us. We want to try to sequester that nitrogen where it's at, It may not be there, in the crop rotation in a year or two when we rotate back to corn, but if we can ease it into the stream instead of it just being a flush into the stream, that benefits everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, keeping that nitrogen in the system, it will cycle back to the crop and it keeps it out of the water, and that's good for everybody.
Yep. Yeah, if we're going to, I've been saying this for 15 years, we don't make a dime on a pound of nitrogen that goes down the muddy creek. The only way we make any money on a pound of nitrogen is if it leaves in a bushel of grain. And anything we can do, I mean, that is the simplest way to cut costs on the farm, is be more efficient in your nitrogen application.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Has there been enough rain in any of your areas where you feel confident that anhydrous ammonia can start going in, with the asterisk of, temperature wise, and that's trending down, but there is major concern of how dry it is. But some areas did see some rain. Was that enough to get operations going, or is it still recommended to hold off until you get more rainfall?
I'd go in my area. That's just my opinion. Throughout Western Illinois. I'm not sure about you, Haley, as you get drier, but with the recent rainfall that was discussed, maybe we're okay now. But I would go with the temperatures looking like where they're at.
I think we're at a point where I think definitely temperatures have to get there, because we are just finally starting to see cooler temperatures, number one. But I think for us right now, it's going to be a field by field basis. I feel like I think it's going to be basically going and trying it, seeing what it looks like, making sure it's sealing good, and making sure there's not, we can actually get the bar in the ground as far as getting it level across that soil profile, and just seeing how it's sealing, making sure we're not smelling it behind the bar, and making those recommendations from there. To be honest, I've never had to deal with us being in a drought condition like this and worrying about anhydrous. So I'd be very curious on Mike or any of your guys' thoughts on just overall recommendations on what your thoughts are as far as anhydrous application.
Well, I am south of Highway 36, so I don't do fall application of nitrogen. But if you're sealing and you can get the product deep enough without breaking shear bolts, I'd put on ammonia. If you're cool enough, if you meet all the other parameters and the only thing is the soil's dry, I'd put on ammonia. But it's like you said, if you can smell it, or if you can visually, you don't have enough moisture for it to seal, and you can visually see the vapor off, I'd quit. But if it's sealing, it's completely different from spring application. And we've done a little down here. I've got one guy down Shawneetown wanting to do it this year, and I'm like, have you lost your mind? But we can't do that unless you're going to plant corn in February, and he may do that. I don't know. But no, Haley, I think you're right on. If you can smell it, stop. If you can see it vaporing, stop. It's just, this stuff's too expensive to just do it so you can go to Florida. Did I say the quiet part out loud there? And I want to be honest, I actually, when I was on CCA board, we actually had someone approach us about ethics violation of a CCA recommending putting ammonia on when the soil temperature was 68 degrees. So there's some people in the state take that pretty seriously. And I do too. We need to be careful with that. One thing I would say is, and I've seen some people in northern Indiana, and I'm familiar with it, so I that's why I'm mentioning northern Indiana, north central Indiana, the Lafayette area, using cereal rye cover crop and then putting their fall applied nitrogen into that. And that works fantastic. And then they terminate that in the spring and plant their corn into it. and they're really helping to hold that nitrogen, also using a stabilizer, but also using the cover crop to help stabilize, not stabilize, but sequester that nitrogen so that it's there. And if you kill it, you terminate it early, it'll mineralize and that nitrogen will be released that the cover crop took up just about the time you need it, about, V8, V10, when you need it to start releasing. So it works pretty good. So there's another situation that a cover crop works really well in. But to me, if it'll seal, especially with you guys, I want you to get done so I can get my ammonia next spring. So there is an ulterior motive. But, if it's not going anywhere, I mean, if your soil's dry, it sure isn't going to leach and it's not going to denitrify because you got to have moisture to do that. So I'd rather err a little drier than a little wetter myself, but that's my opinion.
All right. So as Mike said, closing out 2025, many want to forget 2025. There was probably for some farmers that really like 2025. They fared pretty well. But as we wrap this up, so looking back on the 2025 growing season, looking to 2026, what would you like to tell farmers? Now, there's so much going on ag policy wise right now with the tariffs, the commodity prices, etc. So they're thinking a lot on that side, but I want you all to think agronomically. What's your advice to them looking to next year? Just to end this episode maybe on a little light note.
I think the one thing that I would tell everybody, and this goes all years from an agronomic perspective and a policy perspective, is you need to be as efficient as you can be in what you're doing, and you need to be flexible. The more you can build flexibility into your management, the more you're going to be able to adapt to changing policy situations. And the more adaptive you are in the field, the more you can respond to environmental conditions. So learn the lessons from each year and make the changes where you can, and just be adaptive. If that means weighting heavier to one crop or the other, or whether that means changing your herbicide program or changing things up with your cover crop management, or bringing a cover crop into a system where you haven't had a cover crop in the past. Flexibility is very, very important. And the more flexible you can be, the more easily you'll respond to changing policy and environmental condition.
Well said.
Yeah, I love the flexibility, Tori, because we have, there's funding available, right? That taxpayers pay for, that we all pay for. Illinois recently suggested, or not suggested, but put out there about no-till and strip till, the flexibility, right? So are you flexible to go to a strip till type situation and get some funding for that through the Illinois Department of Ag? As far as I know, that's not on the federal side, Kelsey. That's a state of Illinois
correct
situation there. So just keeping an eye on those things and being flexible and being positive about things. There are ways, I should say, to get some funding to this wonderful world we live in of year to year variability that we have. But that's we control the stuff we can control, and there's a lot we cannot. But it's just awesome to go year to year because things change, and that's the beautiful thing about our jobs. I love being an agronomist because things change every year. It'd be really boring if things just stayed the same. Stay positive.
Haley or Mike, you have anything to add?
I've always got something to add. I agree with Tori. Efficiency. We are coming off some unprecedented profitability and yields since 2012. We've had some really good years. We've had a bump in the road here and there, but we've had some really good years since the disaster of 12. We've done a ton of research. We've looked at cover crop. I don't want to say introduction, but adaptation has increased in that amount of time, in the last 13 years. We're looking at nutrient use efficiency and nitrogen use efficiency a lot more than we ever have. As soon as I get off here, I'm headed to Wayne County, and we're taking out our Illinois nutrient stewardship nitrogen efficiency plot. We call it the nitrogen stabilizer plot, but it's all got nitrogen stabilizer on it. We look more at efficiencies now. This is the 8th or 9th year we've done that plot. We're going to go take it out this morning. It was planted in June, so I'm not optimistic. But I would say take the lessons we've learned in efficiency and what works in the last 10 years and use that now. That's why we did all that research. We didn't do it for times that are easy. We did it for times that are hard. And all of us on this podcast and everyone that's involved in this Envoy program has been doing this work. I know all of you have. And we need to make sure our growers, our customers, our friends, our neighbors use that information. Now, I'm going to talk about Matt and Stephanie while they're not here, but we have had conversations along with a lot of the other CCA, past CCA and present CCA board members and certified crop advisors about this. When we have downturns in the farm economy like this, we have a lot of products come out of the woodwork that you'll never have to do this again if you apply this product. And I'm not going to be any more specific than that because I don't want to cause problems. But if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Nothing is going to replace basic sound agronomy. We need to all take a look. And if you can't afford to apply $900 phosphate, don't apply $900 phosphate. I understand that. But you're going to have to be smart about it and look at all your options. Or how do I make the phosphate I apply more efficient? And there's no one better than this group here and the other CCAs across the state of Illinois to make those recommendations and help growers get through these tough times. And there you go. I'm off my soapbox. That's all I got to say about that. But there's some pretty good people out here in the state that are willing to help growers. And I feel like the Envoys are kind of the cream of that crop. So.
Yes, definitely. Haley, would you like to add anything? Has it already been said?
I think you guys all hit it right on the head as far as that goes. I don't have anything else to add. So
okay. Well, I just wanted to note. So you all mentioned the Illinois Climate Smart Ag program through the state of Illinois. So all that information is on Field Advisor right now. Corey Lacey, who's part of the government relations team here at Illinois Soybean, he wrote out a blog all about the program. So this is an initiative from IDOA that supports the adoption of no-till or strip-till systems on eligible acres for 3 consecutive years beginning this fall here in 2025. I won't go into all of it. Just go to fieldadvisor.org. It's right on the homepage in top right corner, what farmers need to know, Illinois Climate Smart Ag Program. Corey did share with me yesterday that farmers can pre-enroll now so they can get all their information in and then submit their application quickly when it opens next Monday, October 27th at 8 a.m. So if you just go to Field Advisor, you can learn more about it there. But with that, I want to thank all of you, plus Matt, Montgomery, Seth Wiley, you guys, plus all of you here on the podcast, Mike, Tori, Haley, Byron. These are our Illinois Soy Envoys that were here for the 2025 growing season. We're very appreciative for them for writing blogs this year, for coming on the podcast. We realize the state of Illinois is long and wide, and fields are different from every county, every region, every part of the state. So we do our best to try to represent those areas and give agronomic information and just observations through the crop reports as well of what's going on through the state. So I thank you all for sharing this information. I tell Soy Envoys you're welcome to come on the podcast or the blog even after you're done being a Soy Envoy, because we really appreciate your information. And like Mike said, his words, cream of the crop. So I just want to put that out there and share with our subscribers what you all do for the farmers here in the state of Illinois. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Field Advisor Podcast. Unbiased, independent agronomy information to keep your farm moving forward. I'm Kelsey Litchfield, your voice from the field. This podcast is funded by the Illinois Soybean Association Checkoff Program. Stay connected with Field Advisor on social media. Follow, like, and share to keep the conversation going. And don't forget to subscribe to the Field Advisor Podcast on your favorite podcast platform.